I understand many of you are not political scientists. You have no interest in researching anything the news actually says. Anything that comes on TV you completely believe. But let me say this. George Bush started Al-Qaeda, as much as he demonized it and said what evil and horrible people it was. Obama started ISIS. Those are facts. Go look them up. And in fact, there is nothing that is more clear than Obama's complete refusal to say ISIS has anything to do with Islam, because in his view, they're mercenaries. He trained them, he formed them, gave them equipment, gave them funding, and is still funding them. Those are facts. I want to talk about Islam. Islam is not a religion. Islam is a system. It is a political system for imperialism. Now, here's the great tragedy of Islam. It has three major divisions. If Islam was actually united, completely united, it has other divisions, but the other ones are minor. If it was completely united, it would engulf the world. Now, why is Obama going along with Islam, per Islam, not ISIS, per Islam, to invade the United States? As far as Islam is concerned, the United States is not on the map. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the Great Jihad. The Great Jihad was started by the fake personality known as Muhammad. Why do I say fake personality? Because there's evidence that he did not actually exist. As per Jesus, as per Moses, the person actually did not exist. In fact, not only did he not exist, nothing was set forth until hundreds of years after the alleged life of the person. Same thing with Moses, same thing with Jesus. And in fact, Christians, qua Christians, existed in 300 BC. So this whole notion that somebody existed 300 years after Christians actually began is a complete fantasy and a complete made-up fantasy. Of course, Christians aren't even going to know what to even do with that information. What do you mean there was Christians in 300 BC, 300 years before Christ was even supposedly born and was alive? Yes, there were Christians, real live Christians with the entire story, background already in place 300 years before the mythological person existed. Now let's talk about the great tragedy of Western education. Anytime you talk about war and who slaughters who more, everybody wants to bring up the Crusades. Well, in fact, when you compare the Crusades versus the Great Jihad, the Crusades are a blip on the map. And the Crusades actually were in retaliation to and at the request of people living in that area. But they're not going to tell you the truth about the Crusades because then white supremacy would have to take a back seat and admit that brown people and black people, for that matter, ruled over them for hundreds of years. The Great Jihad nearly wiped out Europe. Nobody's going to tell you that, because that would mean that the white man is not the all-powerful being that he pretends he is. Now, I'm not coming down hard on white people. I'm not saying anything about white people. I'm telling you the truth. This is, think of me as a computer. Input in, output out. You have a system in place that whitewashes history completely and doesn't even want to admit when monsters are monsters, when evil is evil, because it will make white supremacy non-existent. Africans invaded Europe, Southern Europe, and not only invaded Southern Europe, but sat as royalty as far north as Germany, and even further north too. And as far as the major kingdoms in Europe, there were black rulers because, and here's the thing, Europeans really did not have a concept of true royalty. Even when they did have kings, they still could not conceive of how the Africans, when they got on the seat of power, became gods. Oh, they tried it in Greece, they tried it in Rome, but nobody really worshiped them as gods. Nobody, I mean, they put them on the coins, they did a couple of things here. Nobody dedicated their lives to the king so much that they dedicated their life to building their burial chambers. It was unheard of. Oh, now they had some funerary rites amongst the Druids, amongst the Irish, amongst the Vikings. Oh, they had some rites, which the Catholic Church completely stomped out. Oh yeah, that's right. You all think that the Catholic Church is somehow white. It's not white. It's very it's a take on the African Egyptian religion that they literally repackaged as Roman. Let's get back to the Great Jihad and the system of imperialism of the Arabs. The entire system, what you would call a religion, is for the dominance, the worldwide dominance of quote unquote Islam. But the actual dominance is for a caliphate. It's not for some sort of religious, spiritual awakening. It's for dominance. We have a documentary here, and I'm going to show you some pictures here that shows you the continuous wave after wave after wave, all the way up to 2016 of Islam still doing the jihad. They never stopped. Now, I did a video before on this channel talking about Italy never recognizing Islam and kicking them out and saying that they cannot build any more mosques in Italy. Fact, go look it up. Italy has been fighting Islam for over 1,400 years. They don't teach you that in the United States. They don't teach you that this entire thing has been continuously going on. And now you have in power idiots in Brussels who are going to go along with the Great Jihad because those people at the top, the so-called elites, still want the Roman Empire to come back. And the closest thing today in the entire world to the Roman Empire is Islam. Do you know that they backed Hitler because they wanted Hitler and the Nazis to be the new Roman Empire? There wasn't not this outcry and sorrow over Hitler. They were a little bit upset at the methods, but that's what they assumed that a Roman Empire would do. Slaughter a whole bunch of people. And since I'm talking about it, I just interviewed somebody and they said, I don't weep for Jews. In World War II, there were 70 million people slaughtered in World War II. Jews were killed by 2 million. And we are to forever be sorrowful for Jews. They don't even account for the Africans that were slaughtered at all. But 70 million people were slaughtered in World War II. 70 million. That's a number that they never talk about. So compared to 70 million, the Jews got off lucky. Those are just facts. Now, I'm a black person. Black people have absolutely nothing to do with the Jews because, first of all, they're white. They're white people. They're Khazars. They're not real Jews. They're not the real Hebrews. They're not the real Israelites, who were, in fact, African. There is not a drop of Hebrew blood in any of these people who are calling themselves Jews today. This is all converts from a couple of 100 years ago, and now they're wanting to cry about something when, in fact, the Hebrews, the Israelites, were never whiners. They were a warlike tribe. They were a warlike people. This is why they were in the diaries of the Roman Empire, because they were warlike, and they gave the Romans the most trouble of all. Now, of course, the Khazarian Empire, when they read all this and learned of the Israelites, they wanted themselves to be a part of that because they themselves were weaklings. They had to give up their empire, they had to give up their kingdom and flee their land. The land that they lost is in Europe. The land that they lost is nowhere near Egypt, nowhere near the Middle East. It's in Europe, and they know it, and they were trying to get it back, and they have been for, a couple of centuries trying to get it back. Now, let's get back to the Great Jihad. It is, for a lot of the elites, the second or third or fourth coming of the Roman Empire. They have been wanting to get back to the Roman Empire since it fell. They are just so in love with the idea of a Roman Empire, when in fact the Romans were barbaric. They were almost as God accepting as the Hindus are, who will accept any god, right? That's how the Roman Empire was. You worship cows? Okay, come on in. We're going to put a sanctuary of the god of cows in our holy temple. And when you go into the holy temple, there's 15 different gods in one corner. They slaughtered people left and right for fun. They didn't shower, they didn't bathe. This whole notion of aqueducts and being invented by Romans is all a lie. Everything that the Western world, Europeans ever did, ever learned, came from Africa. This is all whitewashing. And it's so egregious that they whitewashed the Great Jihad out of the annals of history, especially when it comes in contact with Europe. Nope, didn't happen. I'm here to tell you today, it never stopped. Not only did it happen, it never stopped. From day one until today, the Great Jihad is alive and kicking. Thank you for watching the Shikama Live, Shikama Politics.